All right, we're coming off a big revenge win against the Arkansas Razorbacks, a 13-point victory. Auburn 72, Arkansas 59. If you paid attention last year, they boomed us when we were the number one team, rushed the court, Musselman taking his shirt off, disrespectful dunk at the end over Wendell that was pretty disrespectful, and Wendell felt it, and he had a revenge game tonight. We all had a revenge game tonight. The energy was different. I'm celebrating. Matt's celebrating. I have a brand new Gosling's rum here, our unofficial drink of the podcast. They have aged this on a boat 80 times going across the Atlantic. Look at this thing, Spirited Seas by Gosling's. I'm pouring it up. Can you hear it? Oh, yeah, in the mic. Here we go. I'm toasting the victory. War Eagle Matt, we just took down Arkansas. Biggest win of the year so far.
Great win, man. Such a big difference from a couple days ago. How bad things felt. It really is amazing. You got to give Auburn's players a lot of credit for the way they came out and attacked this game. The coaches deserve a lot of credit that we'll get into how this game unfolded. Neville Arena deserves a lot of credit. It's the best vibe we've had all year, right? This was one of those games we circled. We wanted this one, and Arkansas has a couple guys out. But look, we're not going to apologize for that. That's the number 13 ranked team in the country. They still have a ton of NBA draft prospects on their team. And we really got in their heads in some pretty funny ways.
The announcers at the end were still trying to talk about Arkansas Elite 8 team. Maybe they're addicted to the fact that they might go on another run or something because they have their preseason predictions they're trying to justify now.
Well, but they've gone to back-to-back Elite 8s, right?
Yeah, they are out some players or whatever, but that's just part of the game. We're out with a chance injury that that could change our whole season. If Chance didn't get injured, we have lots of issues like that also. But man, the energy tonight just overall was so great. I wish we could. I mean, the energy was the worst it had been all year at that Georgia game. It was brutal. It was just really sad to watch. And it's like the opposite of how we're going to have to play as a team to win any of these games. We know our offense isn't great. It was great. We scored 72 tonight, but it was really the energy on defense and how locked in we looked. Even on offense, the cuts looked more locked in. The chemistry looked better. All we needed was this perfect timing for this game on the schedule. The revenge game. I think just as bad as me and Ryan wanted to win this game, I'm sure everybody else, this team wanted to win it even more. And you could feel it. I think maybe that's the cure for a locker room that might be a little upset or a team that doesn't seem to quite have the right energy is say, well, guess what? The next game, y'all are going to want to win this one and you're going to want to work together to do it. And it was a lot of fun to watch out there. And it reminds us how fun it is to watch Auburn basketball. And thank God, we're locked in. I think a lot of people turned that corner last year from being like casual fans to watch for some big games to like, no, I'm going to watch the games. Like I am now a basketball fan. Like the majority of the fan base is now like more than 90% of Auburn fans now see themselves as basketball fans. But man, it was going to test it this year if we didn't get some fun victories like this. And it was just really great to see Neville Arena rocking, the team having fun out there playing our style of basketball.
Yes, you hit it. How many times this year have we talked about on this podcast? Like, who are we? What is our identity? We know we have some good big guys. We know our guards are short. We know we were pretty good on defense when we don't beat ourselves. I think tonight was a great example of that. But who are we? And this is a great win for these guys to get that positive energy. Bruce is really honest with them. They were frustrated by that Georgia loss. They don't obviously expect to lose to Georgia ever right now, the way things have gone the last few years. And I don't know if you saw this, but Joe Lunardi today had us as one of the last 8 teams in the field, which I think that's a little excessive with our metrics and our numbers. But I guarantee you, I can almost guarantee you, he had a conversation. He's pretty honest about that. Like, guys, this is an opportunity for a resume building win. It keeps us in the race in the SEC. It defends home court. We've got the third longest, all these things making history, right? He's all about that. I guarantee you all that was part of the package. And I just thought the energy was great. The nonverbals were great. The team, but look, like we said at the end of the Georgia podcast, it helps when you make some shots and some good things are happening. And there's just not a lot of good stuff that happened on Wednesday night.
It checked so many boxes tonight. We talked about in the preseason, the whole time preseason podcast and the SEC prediction progress, what we wanted this season. I want to stay in the top 25. Here you go. You lose, but then you beat a number 13 team. We'll probably stay in the top 25. I think Matt doesn't think so. I think we probably will. I think we probably will. and we'll see. But then also you keep your rivals down. That's another one I wanted. You get the revenge against Arkansas. It's the biggest game me and Ryan wanted to win. So you get a lot of these like box checking here. The biggest one, in my opinion, keep winning at home, hold serve at home. We know how bad we're going to be away. That Georgia game confirmed how bad we were going to be away. We have to win these home games. This was one of those tough ones that's going to be tough to win. We have a couple more like Alabama's on the schedule at home.
Tennessee.
I think Tennessee's on the schedule at the end of the year. These are those tough home games we're going to have to pull off to make up for how bad our way is going to be when we're losing to teams like Georgia. Hopefully Georgia's better than we think, or the Mike White had the number. But I mean, you talked about the energy coming out and how much, the chemistry coming out, how the game's much easier when you can hit some scores earlier, hit some baskets earlier. Well, guess what? Wendell Green came out and hit that 3 to make it a 4-point play, started our first 7 points. He feels like disrespect after that dunk, and he came out and he showed out. I think that's a great way to start MVP discussion. I think we have a couple guys to talk about, but Wendell definitely started the conversation for sure.
Absolutely. And we've talked about how, for better or for worse, you can hate the decision, whatever. We've hitched our wagon to the small guards and the veteran guards, and mainly Wendell Green Jr. He obviously, I'm sure, was motivated for this one. You talked about in our group chat the length. Arkansas just has these long, and that's why they have NBA prospects, right? They're these long, gargantuan people. And Wendell, I thought, was masterful tonight. And it's crazy to me. So there was a big argument after the last couple SEC games that were so ugly. Wendell's numbers were not good. He was 3 for 23, I think, for his last 6 games from 3. He just wasn't hitting his outside shots. Like I kind of joked with you, I don't think he's forgotten how to shoot. It's almost like he just hasn't had any help and any options around him at times. And then I think he's been trying to defer a little more. But man, him coming out and just hitting a couple threes early, almost just like let everybody breathe. And we led the whole game, which I think is huge for a team that was maybe struggling with confidence. We started early. We maintained a lead all the way through. Arkansas made a few runs, but Wendell was terrific. 19 points on 8 shots, 5 assists. He did have 3 turnovers, but he handled the ball beautifully. I thought he got involved.
Some of those turnovers, he couldn't buy a foul near the end of the game when they were roughing him up. I couldn't believe it because Arkansas was getting all kind of shooting fouls. You think it'd go the other way. Wendell, man, he had a couple bad ones down there that looked really rough that just were not getting the call. So sorry, I just had to bring that up about that. At least 1 or 2 of those turnovers were near the end getting roughed up.
Again, think about the Wendell games. So often we've looked at him as like a scorer. I think he's still our leading scorer, but he shot the ball 8 times. And his impact on this game was massive everywhere you looked. He more than any player on this team, I think, he's a little dude, but he's got that toughness, and he's just a tough guy. He's a guy I think you want on your team. We've seen some bad SEC performances from him. I hope he can use this as kind of a springboard to get back to where he was the first half of last year a little bit. Great for his confidence. And the best part, I'm rambling here, but he finished this game perfect. I mean, not perfectly, but it was really good. The last 5 minutes, the ball's in his hands. We took clock when we needed to take clock. He got fouled when he needed to get fouled. He hit a couple passes to guys to get easy buckets when he needed to. And that is the most valuable thing in basketball, to have a point guard that you can trust in those moments to take care of a lead and finish off a game against a really good team.
We had several chances in this game to hit that blow the roof off the Neville Arena shot. The crowd was just so ready. I was on my couch ready or bar ready, just being like, this is it. They're about to blow this game wide open with this 3 or this dunk or this move right here, or this fast break. And we just couldn't quite get it. And that could be an issue. You start looking up and you've missed a couple of those and you're like, wow. And we kind of went back and forth in this lead from 8 or 9 points to 13 points, stretching it back and forth. We even had a time where we didn't score for 8 minutes, but we still kept that lead, which was really amazing. We'll have to talk about that later, but he just kept going back. And then you wonder, at the end of the game, if you didn't blow him out, if you didn't finally take that kill shot right at the end, what's going to happen? And we had Wendell out there. We could have easily, especially there was a flagrant foul, I believe, or no, a technical on Janai Broom. I was like, they have a chance here to hit these free throws and then hit a 3 right afterwards. And the game was just completely different. And we had a chance, even when that didn't happen, at any moment, we could have turtled at any moment. When we had an 8-minute stretch without a shot going in, that could easily happen in the last 6 minutes, the last 5 minutes. We could have turtled super hard, but Wendell stayed aggressive that entire time. I mean, sometimes it was a little loose, but I love that he kept going at it. They weren't trying to just get in the corner or make that last pass or just squeeze it up. No, they were going at it for the last couple of minutes, and I loved the confidence. I don't think Trey could have brought that same confidence as a freshman. I think that was the key. Like, that's the one great thing about keeping somebody like that, is that they've been in this moment before and they pushed right through. He squeezed through defenders at times. He made that pass at just the right moment. It was nice to watch that. And I think the biggest thing, I mean, he led the team in scoring, and then he also led the game early on with that first 7 points. Like, he was the catalyst and the energy that brought us here. And we have two other guys, I think, they talk about that they do have arguments, but it's kind of tough because the MVP, even if he didn't lead in scoring, the energy he led with is really what it feels like was the leadership here.
It's an attitude thing. He started the game. He finished the game. I thought he played so under control. And defensively, we were able to let him be a little more aggressive and hide him a little bit. Sometimes he gets picked on a little bit, played his own. We'll talk way more about that after we get done with MVP, but just a really great game. But having said that, I mean, pause the podcast, right? Like, Allen Flanigan, holy cow, 18 points on 9 shots, 3 3-pointers, 8 rebounds from his position. He played more minutes than any player on Auburn's team tonight, in part because Jalen was in foul trouble. They slid Chris Moore down, but Flanigan that's Allen. Like, if that can become a thing or even close to what we saw tonight, that's what we've been needing. We need somebody to do that, and it made all the difference tonight.
And he went, oh man, there was a play. It's the stuff that keeps the dream alive a little bit, that Allen Flanigan might be there. I mean, he hit the threes, which is a huge part of it. Like, a guard that can hit a three, our 3-position guy can hit a three. Oh my, after last year, like, oh my goodness, that just changes the game completely when he can hover back there and be lethal from 3, especially when KD's not really hitting them right now. Mm-hmm. But man, he had another play where he drove that ball, went through contact, kind of had the ball in the cradle of his arm to get through that contact, got it up there and got the 2. That's the Allen Flanigan you hoped and dreamed we could have. I don't think he collected a charge this game or anything like that, which is great. So, like, man, you just got to keep your eye out for that. You still feel like just a little bit of hope. He plays a game like this and he builds on it a little bit and he builds on it a little bit. And then we have a real threat. We'll see. We'll see. I'm really glad to have him tonight. And sometimes you look at the game plan here, and I think we don't really have a star that's leading us or anything like that. So, but you kind of knew Jodiah Broome would get his. You kind of knew Wendell Green would get his. I mean, they should get theirs at least. So maybe their difference really is when you can have an Allen Flanigan again with 18 points off the bench. Maybe that really is the difference in the game. I mean, there's plenty of differences we could talk about, but like, that's what it takes, is that one more guy off the bench, that one more guy after Wendell and Broome, and maybe after that's about it, really. Maybe after KD, which KD's been so off, but we can talk about that later too.
Yeah, like, I think I said earlier when we started watching this team struggle, like, man, the frustrating part about teams like this is all you need is 1 or 2 guys to just, like, a night. Like, Zepp had a really nice stretch tonight. Like, that's huge for this team when he scores. When Dylan gets an alley-oop finish and scores, when Flanigan can score, like, we don't need everybody to, like, play out of their minds. But man, if we get a performance like that from Flanigan, from Jalen, or from Chris Moore or KD, like, that raises the ceiling of what we can accomplish. And I just, you hit on it. Like, it's frustrating at times, maybe with this veteran roster that maybe we feel like doesn't have as high of a ceiling as we wanted. But man, how calm did Wendell and Flanigan seem going up against this really good Arkansas team? They've been here, like, they've been through it. Like, it's not going to phase them. I was really curious to see how this team responded to getting hit in the face like they did. It's been bad all year, but it kind of came to a head on Wednesday. And man, like, Flanigan, he was pumped when he hit his threes. I know that felt really good for him, but I just thought he was so steady, really good on defense. It is hard not to give him an MVP, in my opinion, because this is, like, potentially huge. Now, he's going to have to show that he can do this more than once. But for tonight, man, it's absolutely a big reason why we won the game.
It's kind of sad about and indicative about our 3-point shooting that I just pulled up Allen Flanigan's 3-point shooting percentage for the season, thinking, like, I feel like it's not the first time we've seen him hit efficiently from three this year. Maybe he can be at 30% from three. Not great. That's like I mean, like for me, a good 3-point shooter is above 33%. 30% is kind of like you should probably be hitting above that from a 1 through 3 position on an Auburn basketball team. But 30% is like God, probably one of our best on the team right now. So good for him.
That's better than I thought it was.
The other guy we got to talk about, and I think this is it's tough because man, shout out to Alan Flanagan with the 18 points, but I just feel like Wendell's just a little bit, just the difference in like the catalyst. Even if you were talking about points, and you got 18 points any other night that Alan Flanagan's with 18 points and 3 of 6 from three, I think you got to give it to him. But Wendell's just got that little over the edge. Also went 2 of 4 from three. But the third guy to talk about is Jonai Broome, and I think the biggest difference is how many threes do you trade for the blocks he had and the defensive effort down low. And just, I mean, they scored 59 points. Arkansas did not shoot well. We played great defense on them. And a big part of that was that Joe Nice stood strong in there. 6 blocks. I saw a stat that he was tied for 12th blocks in the nation right now, which is sad because we were hoping he'd be number 1, honestly. And we have a lot of high expectation from him. Well, bring up 6 in a game and your average goes up a good bit. I think we should be raising up the ranks a little bit there. Scored 10 points also. 10 rebounds also, so double for our guy Jonai Broome, and he just was a huge impact on the game. You thought about him all the time. He was a big deal. Hit some really nifty moves to score some of those. He had a great out of bounds play where he threw it up to him. I believe it was Alan Flanagan that blocked off the other 2 guys kind of. We've seen this a bunch of times, and they got to get it lofted up to him, and he made this great little nifty move that like I love Dylan, and I hope he learns a lot from Broome on these moves, but you knew Dylan could make that move. Just real smooth move. Ducks his shoulder under the guy and just casual, like your dad playing basketball against you when you're a kid, just throws it right in there. And that was huge for Joe Knight because he has made some great moves this year on offense and just not finished them. And to see him just casually finish that too, that's what we want to see. But it was really the defense, the offense helped with the 10 points. That's kind of what we're hoping that's like his basement, his like just every night we're going to get 10 out of him, hopefully. But the defense, man, changed the game. I think they struggled so hard. And I think a big part of that was all the blocks and being intimidated down low.
Well, and it's a great point. And again, like I just think Kessler really messed with some of our heads on what a center can do. I mean, a double-double with 6 blocks, against this team, he was the best big man on the floor tonight. And Arkansas had theirs aren't quite as star-studded. They're without one of their big guys. But he played 30 minutes. He's playing Kessler-like minutes. He's still, look, he's missing some short shots. He's 5 for 12 tonight. It's not as good as you'd want a center to be necessarily, but man, you're right. He was all over the game. Thought he did a terrific job. And I guess I want to jump into defense because I think that has a lot to do with Broome. Are we good with Wendell, Flanagan? Any last minute conversation?
I think the only argument you could finish with, if you really want to give Jonai the MVP, is just that maybe Wendell was the offensive guy that brought the magic and the catalyst, and Broome was the defensive guy that brought the magic and the catalyst and was a big deal down there. I just feel like he created every time he looked up, he was the guy you were thinking about down there. We got roasted against Georgia down low in the paint, and we didn't tonight because Broome was down there locked in. It was a big deal. So, just if you're thinking about like what the differences are, I think you got to give a big shout out to him. But ultimately, I think you're right. I think it was the Wendell revenge game, and he brought it all game in that beginning of the game and the end of the game, put him over the edge, along with being the leading scorer here.
He is an anchor. And I mean, obviously we don't win without Broome, Flanagan, or Green, or really everybody. I mean, this was a team win, but those 3 guys deserve it. But I just don't know. Wendell was everything we've talked about, the good parts, the shooting, the control of the game, taking care of the ball, getting others involved. I mean, this was a kind of classic Wendell performance, and he crossed over Devo Davis and about one of those shots you talked about. I mean,
so close. I was like on the edge of my seat about to jump up that was going to be it. That was going to be that moment we look back on this game, but so close.
So really kudos to all 3 and the 10-man rotation. I mean, everybody got in, and I think we'll talk through some of them eventually, but they all contributed in different ways. So good win. Great. That's a resume building win. Now we'll get to what this means later, but just huge. So we're going to celebrate that, all that. Before we get to stats or players, I think the crux of this game is what we did on defense tonight. And if you let me go 1 or 2 minutes here, just because I think it's very interesting. So Broom, we've talked a lot. I wish everybody could see our group chat because we have a lot of conversations about Broom. Like,
if you're interested in being like, I've heard other podcasts do Discord and do
oh
different
yeah,
group chats and stuff. Like, we are always looking for ways to get engaged with you guys. We're just some fans. We're just like you. We don't have really any expertise. We're just having fun with this. This is just a fun thing for us to do. If you guys want to be in on these group chats, we can figure out a way to do that. I would absolutely love to have you. We love doing the Zoom.
it was fun in the
Zoom chat. We had, I don't know, what, 90 something people in there, and we had a great chat going. If you're interested in that, let us know. We don't always hear from everybody. We're always looking for things on Instagram and Twitter to engage with you guys. And so let us know if you're interested in doing a group chat. We might just start building it on WhatsApp or something.
Great point. Janai Broom, what is he good at defensively? He's good at blocking shots. I think he's really good at one-on-one post defense. I think at this point we've seen enough that, like, if it's one-on-one, he is going to hold up pretty well against whoever he goes against. What has he struggled with? We talked about how teams have brought him away from the basket and we haven't had as many blocks, right? So what is a way to help fix that? And we talked about making other teams actually beat you from the outside, not giving them any. That's been driving me nuts. You've heard me rant about it. So what do we do tonight? Out of nowhere. I mean, we've played a 2-3 zone before, but not like this, not the way we did. We play this zone, not every possession, but it clearly bothered them early and we kind of stuck with it. And it allowed Broom to stay near the basket. It allowed us to clog the lane. It allowed us to keep them outside. Because, by the way, I didn't know this. Arkansas is also a bad three-point shooting team on the year. They're better than us, but not by much. So the scouting report for us is like, well, can we make them take outside shots as long as we can rebound out of it? We didn't rebound great. I just thought, I don't know who had the scout. I would love to know which assistant had the scout.
I was literally thinking the same thing. We're hoping to have some more assistants on. First thing we'll ask them next time is who had the scout, who changed the defense to zone. Because we've heard some people out there maybe that are a little angrier about how we're playing. Like, can we coach this offense? Can Bruce draw some things up? Like, what is this deal right now? Hey, well, this was a great coaching move. I don't know where it came from necessarily, but I'm going to give it to Bruce because that's where the head coach gets all the blame and he gets all the respect. Great idea to throw the zone at him.
It just gave, and it wasn't it amazing. By the end of that game, Arkansas was just. There was the game, the time and score was like, just take the open three that they're giving you. And Arkansas wouldn't do it because they had lost they were 2 for 16 from three. And I think I just give our staff and our players a lot of credit. When you haven't played it, I'm sure they've practiced it, but it seemed obvious to me that we had not just played a 2-3 zone and threw our guys out there. We had very specific points on what we wanted to do. We wanted them to throw it into the post one-on-one against Janai. We would like encourage that almost. And then it's like a man-to-man almost. So I just thought that completely it slowed the game down. It kept Arkansas's athleticism and length from kind of controlling it. It gave Wendell, he didn't have to guard one of those big guards and follow him around and get back down and all the things you worry about with him and Zepp and KD. So for this game, I don't know if it would work every game, but for this game, man, I think it changed everything. The hitting the shots early for Wendell was huge, but playing that zone, and I've been harping on all year, like, can we just make teams make tough shots? And tonight we made Arkansas make tough shots, and they scored 59. And by the way, you can say they missed a lot of free throws, fine. They got rewarded with a bunch of free throws too. And so I think this was a great defensive performance. You can poke holes in what Arkansas did, and they couldn't shoot, and they missed from the free, whatever. We took them out of how they like to play, and that to me is a great coaching win. You talked about tinkering. This was a huge tinker. You don't know if it's going to work this well, but man, credit to the staff and the players for executing it.
I at one point in the group chat, I texted, like, I was thinking they kept getting mismatches on Wendell and Zepp and KD and things. And then I looked around and I was like, all right, where's the other guy? Where's the shorter guy that Wendell's supposed to be guarded? They switched on to. There wasn't. Everyone on their team was so tall. Their guards were just so much bigger than our guys that it constantly looked like a mismatch. So it's just great that we could throw that zone at them and avoid that even with the mismatches. But, you mentioned Janai Broom and how they kind of tempted them to throw it in one-on-one. You can only do that with Janai Broom, right? I don't know how many times we played zone this year. I know you can let me know on that. But, like, just amazing that we have that. And that's another one of those, like, when we're talking about MVP there, like, it's those little things that maybe you don't see, but we can only pull off because of Janai Broom. And now you're right, we've become spoiled because of Walker Kessler. We only had one triple-double in the entire history of Auburn basketball. You've been playing basketball for like 60, 70, 80 years, whatever it's been since I don't even know how long it's
that.
been. He had 1 triple double. Last year, Walker Kessler had 2 with blocks. It was crazy. That's how spoiled we got. Like the fact that we had triple double at all was amazing. The fact that he did it with blocks twice blows your mind. So then Jonai Broome comes out here and gets 6 blocks and has 10 for 10 on the other, from rebounds and points. And we're like, last year our guy did a triple double with those. And it's like, no, this is an amazing stat line to have 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 blocks. And it can only happen. And with the zone, it can only happen because Jonai Broome he's proved that he can do one-on-one. And remember who we had pre-Walker Kessler. I mean, we've done it for years now that we need a platoon of centers, because if we don't, they get in foul trouble. We're screwed. We need at least 3 guys that can collect 5 fouls, especially against like a Kentucky team. We've seen that before. It's 2 years in a row. It's not like that. And maybe it changes. Maybe we go to Lexington and we, need a 3rd guy or something. Right now, Cardwell and Broome have both played so well defensively and not collected these fouls. And maybe it's part reputation. Maybe it's part the refs changing their game. Maybe it's part I'm a homer and these guys are actually really good centers and we just had bad centers before they were fouling all the time. I don't know. But it's just another shout out to Broome on there. I think a big part of this, the defense you wanted to talk about. So we talked about the big guards we had to play against. We talked about how Broome soaked up this zone here. Well, I'm looking at the stat sheet here. Points off turnovers. Amazing. What is this Auburn team supposed to be? What is a Bruce Pearl team supposed to be? You're supposed to turn these teams over and score off those turnovers. 25 for Auburn, 6 for Arkansas. That's the biggest difference. I'm looking up and down the stat sheet. There are other things we can talk about, but man, I feel like we've done that all year. 25 points off turnovers, 6 for them. That's the difference right there. That is huge.
Yeah, +6 in turnovers. That's huge. And Bruce said after the game in his interview just how he's like, the thing we knew we couldn't do against Arkansas is turn them over and get them in the open court. Like we had to set our defense and make them work, which is exactly what I've been, harping on. 4 turnovers in each half for us. Terrific. Taking care of the ball against that team with our small guards. I thought Bruce ran good action, good offense. And to turn them over 14, like you said, I mean, usually for points off turnovers, it's about 1 point per turnover because, you're not going to score every time down off a turnover. We made them pay. We did get some runouts. It was nice to see us on the fast break some. It only shows 5 points, I guess. But, I just felt like we did get some easy buckets. So you're right. That was going to be the one thing I was going to point out that really turned the tide. And just to go over our shooting real quick, we know we're not a great shooting team, but 44% is fine from the field for us. 33% is fine for us from 3. 77% is been approved and a good way to, win a basketball game. So the shooting was a little better at home, and the points off turnovers, you're absolutely right. Huge stat.
If I could lock in like a fixed rate mortgage situation, 33% from 3, I would be ecstatic. If I could lock in 72 points a game, even at home, ecstatic with the team we've seen so far. I mean, my big number is 70. If we can keep a team under 70, we should win. So if we can lock in 72 on offense, that'd be great. Same with the 33%. I do think, I want to not be always super homer, even though I am homer most of the time, but 12% from 3 from Arkansas. They're not a good 3-point shooting team. I'm glad we didn't play them in Fayetteville again. You just got to, you got to win your games at home. We did it, and we did it in a great fashion that was fun to watch. That gives us confidence. That's a blowout. That's a lot of fun. And, that's what you're supposed to do. We saw how bad we played away. They played away bad. I'm sure their fans are upset how they played and, they lost, but I'm sure they're also thinking, man, away shooting gets us again, just like we did against Georgia. So you got to win them, and we knew this would be a tough one, and we could easily have lost, and we could have freaked out, and we won our home game. We did our job, and we did our job against a number 13 ranked team. So that was kind of fun.
Just nice to see us look like an Auburn team. It wasn't the razzle dazzle. We're not going to be the, Final Four team shooting threes everywhere. We didn't fall behind. We didn't have to come back. We just kind of suffocated them with this unique defense. And on offense, I thought we got really good shots. I mean, I know somebody said we took 21 threes. Why are we shooting 21 threes? I thought most of the threes were good. And when you're hit, like you said, if we can hit 33 or better, I mean, I don't mind that. I just didn't feel like offensively, didn't it just feel less like the guys we had some bad stretches you mentioned, but that has been happening.
Can we talk about that right now? Can we talk about the bad stretch? Yeah. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe the most positive, optimistic 8-minute drought. I mean, really, I think it was like 7 minutes, 20 seconds. I keep calling it 8 minutes because it felt even worse, but we had an minute drought in the first half, I think it was. And we still kept like a 10-point lead or something like that.
It,
8-point
it
lead.
got
So
down
like,
to like 5. I think it got cut
okay.
to
So it's probably
4
like shrunk the most of all the
and,
time, but
and
can't believe.
Jalen hit 4 free throws during that. So we did score from the line. But even then, you score 4 points in 7 or 8 minutes against a team like this and you win by 13, like that, you're doing a lot of good work
Yeah.
around that part of the game for
And,
that.
and then even then to end the drought was a Trey Donaldson 3 that bumped all around. And that is a Neville Arena bounce right there. But you take it, and every other team takes it when you're away. So that's just how it is. But man, I couldn't believe we had that bad drought. And it's crazy. It feels like it's the attitude on defense. We've talked about this over and over again. We know our offense is bad. We know it's going to be this way all year. We have to be scrappy. We have to bring the energy on defense every time. It's when this is baseline. Bad offense is baseline. We're going to have these drops. You hope it's not 8 minutes. We've had them 4 minutes, 5 minutes at a time. And that's kind of just the way we used to expect in 2018-19, that we would go on one of those runs that was like 20-0, hitting a ton of 3-pointers. You knew Bryce Brown was going to get hot at some point, just to go ahead and expect this team to have big 4 or 5 minute droughts. And that's just going to be part of our game. What shouldn't be part of our game is letting people run past us, let people get back towards cuts into the paint, all this kind of stuff, getting these turned over and letting them have all these points off turners. That should not be part of the game. And luckily we played hard defense tonight and brought that energy. And that's what the difference was right there.
Well, and you're absolutely right. It just, when you have a team like that, I know I get a little ornery in the first 2 minutes of the game if I see us just not do the little things right on defense, because it just feels like we have to be so locked in on that end. And if I asked you, what did we give Arkansas tonight? We fouled a little too much. We gave them free throws that they didn't fully punish us on, and then we gave them offensive rebounds. But that's playing a zone. I mean, that's kind of a give and take. But that is so much better than the last few weeks, honestly, where it's like, oh yeah, we're letting a guy run right down the middle of the lane at Janai Broome full speed and get a layup or get a dunk, or we're leaving guys. Johan left multiple guys wide open. We'll get to him later, but I just really encouraged that we made Arkansas earn what they got. And yeah, they could have hit more threes, and yeah, they could have hit more free throws, but they didn't. They're playing on the road in our house, and I just think we played some man. We would come out of timeouts and play one possession of man, and then we would go right back to the zone. It was a really good chess match with Musselman and Pearl, like when they used it and how they used it. So
there was a big moment where near the end of the game, maybe the last like 5 or 6 minutes or something, where there was a fast break from Arkansas. And this is the difference between the Arkansas game and the Georgia game. And we had 1-on-1. It looked like the Arkansas guy might score or get a foul call. Zep comes from behind, strips the guy, gets the ball turnover back to us because the ball came off the Arkansas guy. That's the difference right there. We had a guy sprinting all out to be the second guy. I mean, there was moments last game, and we love Wendell this game. There was a moment Wendell hit the floor, and it was, sure, he might have been injured or something like that, but man, the play went on and on and on, and he never got back. And that wasn't the only time that there was a lot of players like that kind of struggled to get back. Meanwhile, tonight, the energy got brought, and it was, you would never think, even if Zep sprints down the court, that guy probably should have just finished before he ever got to him, or could have stopped, or that could have been a foul. No, he went and it happened. And it's kind of like a luck situation. The better you play, the more you practice, the better you are. Luck happens more often. Mm-hmm. And if you put that effort in, Zep got the luck on it, that it went off on him. And we had a great turnover when there was a moment. There's several moments Arkansas could have changed this. We didn't have a big shot. They came back a little bit, and we just kept bringing the energy. And that's the difference. And it's easy to say as fans, I guess, to bring the energy every night. It's a long season. We know, even just doing this podcast every night, that man, it gets a little exhausting after like 20 games that you do in a row. And so, it's tough to ask these guys to do the same thing, but that's what they're going to need. That's what they're going to need if they truly want to win. It's going to bring that same kind of energy, and they have the depth to do it. And I think this could be an interesting time to talk about. You just look at points off the bench here. A lot of this comes from Allen Flanagan having 18 points. Sure. That's a huge amount of it. But 27 points off the bench from Auburn, 8 from Arkansas. So that's a huge difference right there. 27 to 8. That's another one we wanted to talk about, was not just the points off the bench from Allen Flanagan, that we need our guys off the bench to score, but the fact that Arkansas's bench is shorter. They've been playing some really long minutes over there, including whole games from some of their guys. And shout out to Anthony Black. What a game from him. Unstoppable at times. Played a lot of minutes, 30 minutes, but another guy played 36, and they didn't quite play as many minutes as we've seen from some of these other games, maybe because they're exhausted.
I
And
don't
the
even
other
know they
ones,
were in
maybe
foul trouble. So
it was foul trouble. Okay.
Black got 2 fouls early. Debo Davis 2 fouls early. He usually plays 40 the whole game. He only played 25 because of that. So we did have some that was advantageous, but that's part of the game when you're only playing 7 guys. It does leave you very vulnerable to that. And I thought we did a good job of attacking. And I watched them play Missouri, and that Pinion guy, the white guy on Arkansas's team, was hitting dagger threes. He's apparently like kind of a walk-on turned scholarship guy, I think. And
Leor Berman type, because they're the same color.
and maybe a little better, but I don't know. Like,
He's a
but
little taller, right?
against a zone though, you would have thought, right? Like, why? I don't know. I would have let him shoot a few. He shot one and missed it. But all that to say,
Muscleman not taking his shirt off and not calling for Pinion to shoot threes, even though he's roasted other teams with it.
I think it showed, though, like you said, they were not as comfortable with as many guys on their bench being on the floor. Now, I was not super comfortable for a stretch where we had Trey and Zepp and Chris Moore and
Cardwell,
Lan and Carta, but I just feel like
I think when they're trying to do that, I noticed it while we were watching too, because I literally said it a couple times in our text group. We got a Trey Cardwell, some other weather the storm. Let's just weather this. And it sucks that we have to bring that up because I hoped we had enough depth that we didn't really have to do these weather the storms like we've done in the past. You keep thinking we're going to have enough talent on the roster where we don't. We always have someone out there to lead the offense. I think in our minds, in the coaches' minds, in our preseason minds, KD is that guy that's supposed to be bringing the offense when it's like Flanagan, Cardwell, who else is Johan even at times, and Trey out there. And the guy that's supposed to be bringing the spark plug and taking these shots is supposed to be KD. And man, he's just not doing it. He is just, it's falling off so hard.
The ball. He shot the ball 10 times tonight.
10 times, 2 of 10, 20% from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. So actually, is that right? It's still 20% from the, so 4 points. He's just not bringing it. And is it ever since he got that suspension? It feels like the energy's off. Like
I just think he is definitely playing. I will give him credit. Last year we had this whole dialogue about him where he would get you points on one end and then he would do something silly on the other end. He is not. I have not noticed him being a defensive. We know he's a burglar. We know he can steal the ball. But I have not noticed him being a liability defensively. I think he's playing a little more deliberately and maturely, probably. So maybe he's just a little quieter,
which is taken away his magic. And I guess
no turnovers tonight.
Yeah, you've always been more on that train that he's leaving people open on defense when he does these different things. I'm not as astute of an eye as you, so I miss some of those and get really excited about these crazy risks he takes to get these turnovers. So maybe he's locked in more on that. I don't know. I don't see it out there to make sure that's what's happening, but I sure do miss the Hamburglar moments. I miss the energy. I haven't seen him or Cardwell really explode with energy like we've seen. I mean, we saw it earlier in the year we saw a ton last year. The last couple of games, maybe Cardwell did it after that big alley-oop, which we can talk about, but KD, I just have not seen him play with that same excitement and explosion that we've seen so many times. And it's sad because I don't want that to go away. That's what part of making it fun. I mean, if we're winning and he's playing some bench role while we're on a winning team that's playing really well, then okay. But it feels like we're missing that energy a little bit right now. I don't know where it's gone or what, or if they told him to stop being so ridiculous or what, but I loved it.
The only couple things I would point out, you didn't watch the St. Louis game. He was our offense when we got in trouble against St. Louis late. I think he had some key moments against Florida, right? When we had to pull that one out. I will say before I forget, interesting thing. I know we were up 10. This is a little strategy, right? Who closed the game? Wendell was still there. Jalen was still there. Broom was still there. Zepp and Flanagan. You know, we talked about how Chris Moore was finishing a couple games because Flanagan was struggling so much, and they played Zepp. And I thought that was a really smart move. No offense to KD. When you're
gotta
up
play
10,
hot hand when you got 18 points from Flanagan. Yeah.
Well, and when you're up 10, play Zepp. When we're down 5, probably play KD, right? Like to close. So that was interesting.
Not that KD's hitting any threes. It's getting really crazy. I mean, I heard on another podcast, luckily they bounced back in this game a little bit. I thought it was a funny little line. How did we end up with short guards that also can't shoot? It's usually you get one or the other, at the very least. If you can get a tall guard that can shoot, then they'll leave for the NBA before the season's even over. But usually a short guy can shoot well and a tall guy maybe can drive better. And we end up with KD's just being a short guard that can't shoot right now, and it's not been great. I don't know what his season percentage is, but he's another one of those guys I think that Bruce has been talking about in this last week, that he just kind of expected some of these guys to develop a little more than they did. That 3-point shooting was supposed to be a little better. I mean, that was my big stat I think I took from our end of season podcast last year, was I wanted KD to get better at hitting open threes this year. And that's kind of, I honestly fully expected that KD would come in hitting more open threes, because they were not great last year. It was around 30%, I believe. This year he's hitting 28% from three. I need him to hit 33 or above, honestly, from how many he shoots in that two position. I mean, look at what we did with Bryce Brown. He doesn't have to be Bryce Brown. He doesn't have to be Samir Daddy, but he needs to be average to decent, and he's not playing great from three right now.
He is not. But we know Wendell's a good shooter. We've seen it. Like, and that's what I kept getting out. I'm like, we know Wendell can hit shots from deep. Like, and he did tonight. And we've seen Flanigan do it. I know it's been a long time, but like I know people can downplay that one year he was so good in a year where our team wasn't good, but like I saw him do a lot of cool things.
Wendell's shooting 27% from three.
Yeah.
Our guards, God, we gotta like just. And now I'm like changing from 33%. Just get above 30, guys. Come on.
Look at that.
I know you might bring up that some of these point guards have to take some of these desperation threes, but I don't see a ton of desperation threes from Wendell this year. I don't feel like a
not
ton.
This year. Why is that?
Either.
Why is that? Because we have
throwing down to Joe 9. Yeah.
Yes.
They throw down to Joe 9 these emergency moments and get a decent shot. But man, 27% from Wendell, Zep shooting 26, KD 20. It's getting worse. I mean, we kind of knew that it would get worse in SEC play, but
I can't believe Flanigan's 32. That's higher than I thought it was.
He's very close to being in my range to where I consider him a good 3-point shooter.
No big deal. Jalen Williams is approaching Jabari Smith percentage territory over there.
39%. Wow. Now let's see some more volume from these guys. It's our non-volume guys that are hitting these good percentage. What's Chris Moore doing? 50% from three still. How is Leroy Berman not getting drafted by the NBA right now? 60% from three on what? Three attempts?
3 of 5.
3 of 5. This guy. Sorry, being a little sarcastic here, but I'm having fun. We're having fun out here.
No, the percentages are bad. And I think, but I'll have to recheck this. But the crazy thing, and this speaks to how good our defense is. At this point, we've played 15 games. Last time I checked, our opponents are shooting worse from three than we are.
Wow, that's a great stat. Let's pull that. We're going to post it on Twitter if we don't have it pulled up. Don't feel like you have to go pull it up. I did have one more point. I'm joking about Leroy Berman on the NBA with 60% from three because we know it's such a low volume. Chris Moore, I would love to see how many attempts he's actually had, because he's actually hit a little decent amount, and he could get some of those more open threes. We could work him more of an open three, and I think it wouldn't hurt to do it, honestly. If KD's going to keep hitting 0 of 4 from three at times, he's got to try it. But we can work some more open threes to Chris Moore. Test it out. At this point, we are tinkering. Test out Chris Moore's open three.
The thing with Chris is they're not going to run offense for him.
Why not? At this point, our offense is not good. We're tinkering. He is hitting, like, go back to the.
He shoots 1 per game on average. He shoots 1.
Let's get him 2 then. Let's get him 2 and start from there. Work him to a play here, there.
But
work a play to where Jalen, where it goes inside, and the open guy hopefully is Chris on the outside, and see what happens.
And that's where it comes from. His threes come off of other action. Now, if we want to run Chris off of similar action that Flanigan runs, running around screens, I don't think that's his best. But now I will say this, though. How about this?
I'd rather work an open three to Chris than Allen Flanigan. I know we loved Allen Flanigan tonight. Chris Moore's got a higher percentage. Well, yeah, we kind of proven out that Flan's okay. Let's test it out.
But Chris's skill set is not to be the perimeter running around, get open guy. Here's what I would do, though. Tonight, when Jalen's in foul trouble most of the game, they did not want to play Johan more than they had to. They slid Chris Moore to power forward. And Jalen, we saw it with Jabari, we saw it with Chuma, we saw it with all these guys. We do have a lot of offense for 4 position guys to get threes. So if we wanted to get him some action, and I'm really curious as the season goes on, is Chris going to kind of they have really insisted on playing Johan every half. They played him every half of every game this year. And I wonder at some point, do they consider just playing Chris there instead? I don't know.
I 100% would. It sucks. We need Johan and Chance to be better to this team to hit the ceiling. I mean, tonight we showed what this team can be if everyone does their job and plays well. All you need is one guy like Flanagan to make a jump in this game. We don't need it to be Flanagan again next game. Could be Trey Donaldson. It could be Zepp. It could be Chris Moore. It could be Jalen Williams. It makes that kind of next step. You know, it doesn't have to be the same guy every night. But I wouldn't mind it. Johan had, it's like usually he's just really quiet. Tonight he had some loud, bad moments. Oh my goodness. If you missed it, he had a moment where he got the ball at like the 3-point line on kind of a fast break situation, dribbled it once or twice, and just absolutely trucked an Arkansas guy. It was like if he thought some of Alan Flanagan's charges were bad last year, Johan thought he was playing a different sport. He thought, like, I don't know. He knew in his mind the moment he caught that ball at the 3-point line that it didn't matter who was in front of him, or like he didn't think about basketball. He was going to drag that thing and try to dunk from the free throw line. And he ran through that guy like he was going into the end zone.
It was worse than that because they trapped. I think it was Trey was in. They really like to trap Trey to try to test him. And I thought Trey did okay. He handled it. But they got it to Johan at mid-court. And he just went running towards it. And like you said, and the worst part is, that's bad. They were playing that zone, and he was playing on the baseline on the side. And all of a sudden, he's up there like where Zepp is. He's, I guess, trying to help, but he leaves a wide open 3-point shooter in the corner. And then Janai got sucked up to play one-on-one coverage, and Johan didn't realize he had to go to the other guy below the basket who got an easy dunk. So he was just like, there was a 3-possession stretch there where it was just really bad.
My heart got hurt so bad too, because my TV was behind by at least 10 seconds or something. And so I was looking at my text, and I just see a text from Ben. It's like, my God, that Johan drive. I was like, that's going to be great. Like, I'm going to see Johan make a drive and a finish that's really nice and like show a glimpse. Oh, thank God. 10 seconds later, like straight comedy of errors, like from a freaking skit show or something. I couldn't, like, I was about to lay on the ground with how funny that was. And then the sad part too is something like this. It's like, okay, Johan's athletic. I still think he's athletic, but he's clearly really lost from a basketball IQ standpoint. I think that's the biggest thing we underrated. We thought that he would be a lot better from a basketball IQ standpoint, and that's where he can't take advantage of his athleticism. We thought like kind of Jalen Williams at this point, we would love to have what happened Jalen Williams in his freshman season, where it comes in late and shows some athleticism. I think it might be a similar situation. Honestly, we just needed Johan to come in earlier. You know, you hope, but like the sad part with in the NIL transfer era, you can't even really like, you want to invest in this kid and say, man, maybe in year 2, 3, 4, we can just really embrace that athleticism and do something with it. You can't really expect that anymore. And it's sad because, you know, we're going to have to reject a guy. And me and Matt got in this huge discussion about this in the offseason. This is a whole long rant for this Arkansas game, but like, you kind of have to treat it like AAU now. And that's part of what happened this year is we kept a lot of guys that maybe we thought would move on, honestly. I think maybe even the coaching staff thought that, or they didn't want to push them out. And it's just this whole new era of like, I guess you just got to be real. Like, it used to be a huge faux pas and the worst thing you could ever do to push a kid out. You would never push a kid out. You would never get another recruit again if they went around that you're pushing kids out. Now, like Johan, either he might just leave because it got frustrating and he decides he wants to go somewhere else, or we might have to figure something out. We have to be like, it's not working. Do we really spend 3 years for, like, look at Stretch on his 3rd or 4th year now. Like, I know Matt's a big guy that says we need that third center, but like, woof. Like, there's just such a different math they're going to have to do on him. And it's sad because I miss the old way and I'm maybe turning into a grandpa or something, but I miss when you could take a guy like that and be like, all right, we see the raw talent. Let's just watch him improve just a little bit every game. And we'll be cheering for him in year 3.
To be fair though, name me a program that's done that more than Auburn. I mean, Bruce is kind of like, now we can all agree that maybe this year was ill planned. I still think that has more to do with our lack of freshman productivity. I think they thought that Chance and Johan were going to really be key pieces to this team, and they're not ready. But I don't know of another program that's had more guys stick around, get better, improve, not leave. So maybe he will.
I mean, things have changed at light speed.
I know.
Freshman Cardwell to now is like almost like the era that we invested in Cardwell was is completely different. It's only 3 years later. Yeah.
But look, we also thought, you thought Chris Moore would leave.
100%.
You thought, you know, and I'm not saying
We
you,
thought
but
we were going to get a 3-position guy though on top of him. We were recruiting hard to find a 3-point sharpshooter guy that was going to be at 3-position. Hopefully, maybe like that white guy from South Carolina. We had some other guys on the line. We were bidding. We got outbid from Tennessee on Julian Phillips. We thought he might be there. There's a lot. It's not like that was from a lack of effort necessarily. Our guards were the ones we really had to talk about because it was like, do you recruit over these guys? But we were recruiting over the 3-position guys. We just whiffed. Yeah.
But the thing is, we'd have to look at the scholarship status of Stretch and Lior, but I think we would have. I don't think we would have processed somebody. I think we just would have brought somebody in. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was necessarily
It's a new era, baby. We can talk about this more in some of these season previews, different ones, but different era. We'll have to get into it sometime.
How about? I mean, again, you could say this is non-conference heavy, and that's totally fair. But for the year, Auburn is shooting 29% from three, and our opponents are shooting 26.
Love it. I'm glad you came back to this stat. That's something to watch there. As long like we can survive, it feels like, at least as a tournament team, as long as we can keep our 3% higher than them. It will be a big deal to watch that number over SEC play. I think that's another good point that you kind of expect. We played a lot of home games in that out of conference stretch, and that's going to help our 3-point percentage and hurt their 3-point percentage. Now we got to play kind of an even home and away, and it's going to change things, but maybe just watch it, hope that we can stay above it, and kind of every game, maybe we'll look over that.
We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll pull it just for SEC games too. We'll look at that as we get more games under our belt. And by the way, we're out shooting teams from the field and from the free throw line.
Hey, shout out, Ben. Got that free throw.
67.6 though. We're not quite to 70. We need to ramp it up.
Can we talk real quick about that Dylan Cardwell alley-oop?
Yes.
What has happened to our alley-oop game? It's so interesting. Me and you have been fans through this whole Bruce Pearl amazing run. And every time we thought we could pin down what the Bruce Pearl offense is, what is a Bruce Pearl move? What kind of play are we going to do? What's like a great play he draws up? Things disappear. Other things appear. We had really thought we kind of locked in this alley-oop situation to the center, from point guard to center. And we saw, I think the first couple ones we really saw that I remember well is from Jared Harper to Anthony McLemore, which was a really great play from the top of the key where he was throwing it over, kind of, I don't know how you would call it, lofting it over into just a great, like, hard pass, but they clearly had chemistry to do it. We saw, like, in a couple of different teams last year, just unstoppable Walker Kessler and Wendell Green. But we saw it from Cambridge also, a lot coming off the side there from the wing that was really good. We've just seen it over that period, even if that's, I'm kind of naming the ones that were just amazing chemistry that we knew that was locked down. But we just saw it a decent amount from different players from all over. We even saw it last year, Cardwell some. Man, it has just been gone the last, 7 or 8. And that's what really distinct. Like, when we got at this game, it clicked in my mind that we have been missing that for a long time. We've not brought it up in the podcast or anything because I didn't think to miss it really until I saw it tonight. What is going on with the alley-oops? I guess maybe it's a Joe Knight Broom thing that we don't play that way with him, and he's our main guy, and you're only going to get so many alley-oop attempts when Dylan Cardwell's playing 8 minutes a game or whatever. How many did Cardwell play? 10 minutes tonight. So you're only going to get something from him. And maybe Joe Knight Brooms, that's just not his game. He plays such good offensive moves. You don't need to throw it up for him like that. But I miss it.
Broom. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but Broom is not a high flyer. And even if whatever high flyer he is, people forget he hurt his ankle before, a week before the season, and he's still at times looked a little. I think we need to give him credit just for being a warrior too. He was hurt multiple times this year already. So anyway, I don't think that's his best skill set. And I think there is a little Walker Kessler comparison with that Anthony Jared thing. I've watched a lot of basketball. I've never seen a team, because that is a lot of alley-oops are reads, right? Like, it's a read to see how the defense plays you, and if they guard you a certain way, it's an alley-oop. Bruce would run a 5-out play where everybody's outside the 3-point line, and it's basically a fake screen from McLemore, and it's called from the bench, I believe. And it's just the timing that Jared had on that was
It
So
was magical. It was
that
such a difficult angle on that pass, and they just had that thing
yes.
locked in. It was really incredible to watch. Yeah, a lot of time it seems to be the point guard driving and kind of getting in a moment where he's got the center already up in the air and says, instead of me trying to finish this, I'm going to loft it up there because I know my guy just got peeled off. The other that center peeled off my guy. We just have not. That's where you kind of think like you just see other teams do that a lot to us, or you've seen it just in neutral fandom. And we have not done that in a while. So it's one thing to not have the Jared McElroy. It's one thing not to have the little play with Wendell and Walker. It's one thing to not have Cambridge on that wing anymore to jump off. And I hope you kind of hope Jalen or Johan would have been that guy that kind of flew in from the wing, and it hasn't really it happened.
Well,
but you would think there would still be a decent amount of chemistry to Jonai coming off that thing or somebody down there. I guess maybe it's part Jalen too. Jalen's just not that guy that's sitting there waiting for it.
Hang on. We got to talk about positions here, because if you're gonna if you're saying Jalen should be doing it, then okay, I would challenge you to. There were some alley oops maybe to Jabari, maybe one or two. I mean, I'm trying to think, and then Chuma, like not really. So it's kind of a positional thing. Now I will say
Jabari, but the difference was he was such a sharpshooter. You didn't need him to like be crashing the boards.
But if you're talking about, look, teams are doing a good job on Wendell at times. And the key to all these alley-oops is somebody has to break the defense and kind of, if we're not talking about the crazy cool set play we used to do, everything else, somebody has to get inside and draw a defender, right? The other piece of that is movement away from the ball. And at times we've been so stagnant. Like we don't have those guys flying to the basket. We don't always have Cardwell rolling like he did on that one play tonight. And because sometimes you're doing pick and pop where the guy after the screen isn't going to the basket, he's coming out to the 3-point line. That's what we do with Jalen a lot.
Do we want to do that when Cardwell, like surely that's when we want Cardwell tracking behind. He's not going to hit a three. Correct. He's not a threat to hit a three.
Correct.
No one's taking that seriously even. Like you might even argue like, well, maybe it just draws the guy back a foot. No, whoever's guarding Cardwell is not even thinking about, like he is like immediately leaving Cardwell. So you'd think you need him trailing. So, but then again, that comes down to he's playing 10 minutes a game. So you're only going to see so many, organic moments,
Yeah. No, it's a good point that we should watch for that, because when Cardwell is in, I agree. I think most of what we do with him is a high screen and roll. If we're not running a set play, high screen and roll for the ball handler, and he is rolling. I do think we've kind of created a little bit of a identity there that teams are probably trying to take away, right? It's like, hey, watch that lob, watch that alley-oop, watch that thing, so.
I do want to talk briefly here, and I don't know if we need to make this part of the show, and clearly we're late in the show already, but I think last pod we missed to talk about a Georgia player that maybe scored 25 plus on or something. I already gave a shout out. I believe his name's Anthony Black, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, Black, we'd known this before. We talked about this in previous podcasts that we knew this guy was going to come in and be really good. He's a freshman. That's just one of those guys that we missed on this year. I think the strategy is to get transfers that fill holes, get 5 stars out of high school or high ranked guys out of high school that can bring that ceiling production. They clearly found theirs in Black, and they found theirs in a couple other guys. We're lucky they've kind of fallen apart a little bit, and that's part coaching too, the way Bruce has kept teams together. But anyways, I think we do need to talk a little more about other teams sometimes and how they played. Is there anybody else you want to talk about? I know we talked about Black was unstoppable at times. I wanted us, like, I was thinking hockey terms, and I was just like, get somebody in there to rattle him. I don't care if it's a flagrant foul. I don't care if it's, just get in that man's face. And maybe he's unflappable, but he's a freshman out there in Neville Arena. Somebody needs to shake him. And I don't know what I don't know. You might have some examples of thoughts on that, but I threw out in the chat, who can we put him right now? At the beginning of the second half, he looked unstoppable. I don't know what to do about that. I mean, thoughts, any other players you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, the 3 guys that scare me, again, they're down a couple guys. So the 3 guys coming into this game are Black, Council, and I mentioned D. Davis, number 4. Davis gets in foul trouble. He had 2 points, didn't hit a shot, didn't score till the very end of the game. So we fortunately neutralized him. Council's a really good player. He was 5 of 15. He played 36 minutes, almost the whole game. But Black was the one. He got in foul trouble. And then I think part of his production tonight was just look around. Like Davis was on the bench for a lot of the game. Who's going to shoot? And Black's an NBA. A lot of guys are NBA prospects over there, but he's probably the one now with Nick Smith is the highest name guy. It's weird. Like I don't know if you
I thought for sure he would come back for this one. We've
know.
seen other guys do this. We've seen these NBA guys get hurt early and already kind of have this like, man, I'm already going top 10 or whatever. Get hurt lower. Kentucky happens to Kentucky last year with Shaden Sharp. It's happened at several teams where like if you got a guy that's truly before, like Jabari had to grow into his top 5 pick. But these other guys have not had to grow into it. They were already those guys coming out of high school. They go in, they get a little hurt early, and they close up shop. But we've also seen some of them get a little hurt. People think, are they going to close up shop? They come back for a game or two, get a little like, maybe they lose a game. Maybe that depends on how the team's doing. The team's a top 10 team. They keep going. Team loses a game or two. All of a sudden, maybe now I'm closing up shop. And I thought for sure this might be his last. We would be unlucky enough that he says to himself, early SEC play, I could play. Well, let's keep a top 10 team going on the road and be a 22 team. Luckily, did not play. And I think at this point, if he's not going to come back for this one, a top 25 matchup on a Saturday, he is not coming back.
Did you catch his situation? Do you know where he was?
Where was he? He was not even there. He was gone.
Oh, Jackson, let me tell you where
I missed. I'm sorry. I tell the podcast honest and tell me. And I'll react live.
You're gonna love this. It's worse than you think. He's recovering in California away from the team, and he is already a signed Clutch client. He's
already got an agent.
And so they are rehabbing him away from the team, and the insinuation is that they don't know if he's coming back.
Of course not. If he's got an agent, they're not coming back.
But all that
it is worse. It is where Shaden Sharp sat on the bench the whole year, becoming like, I thank God we didn't have to deal with that drama. I mean, it would be nice to have a guy to deal with like that, I guess. But like, man, Kentucky fans all year had to deal with the drama. He's sitting on the bench. Is he gonna come and play? He's practicing with it. Just get out there.
And then they lose to St. Peter's. Like, we could have had this guy. So it's Nick Smith's a great player. He's going to be in the NBA. So he was out. So I think we did a really good job. Black was good. I think he was really good.
Much? We have to find out.
He scored from the free throw line. He got to the line. That's all he did.
We have to find out how much NIL money Nick Smith has made this year. Because this is the biggest downside of this NIL stuff that people just don't really, the pro NIL people, and I'm not like I don't know, I'm pretty anti-NIL actually, but it's like, they're not thinking about the consequences. That's my biggest thing is they don't have regulations, not thinking of the consequences. This guy probably made millions of dollars to come to Arkansas, honestly. I got to know what is in these contracts to keep them from doing this kind of thing. I don't think it's a wild west out there. I think that's the biggest issue I have with it is it's unregulated. No one else does this. No professional sports league does this. Unregulated free agency every year. Like, it's ridiculous. And there's nothing to hold these people accountable. Like, he might be paying for his rehab at this millions of dollars away from the team. I'm going to look it up. You talk about some of these other players. I want to see if I can quickly find how much money Nick Smith is making right now to sit in California away from the team.
And again, maybe it's a rehab thing, but I don't think he had surgery or anything. I could be wrong. I'm not super informed. But the only thing I would say about Black, he really fit the description of what you said. Like, he's their point guard. And he was this massive human that could like drive in and finish. And he was 5 of 11. He didn't hit a 3, but he had 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He did turn it over 4 times. But he, on a dark day for Arkansas offense, I mean, if you just look down their box score, it's ugly. Anthony Black was by far the most dangerous weapon. I really thought Council was going to be a way bigger, and he's a good player, but him shooting 5 for 15 was really helpful for us, only having 14 points. And everybody, that's all they had over 6 points. Nobody else scored more than 6 points on their team. So we definitely had a little more balanced scoring there, at least had a little more depth of scoring.
This NIL stuff's so shady. It's crazy, man. The whole concept of like, it's not the schools bidding, it's so they can do commercials and stuff when they're big. Now there's this whole element of these like guys that really are future top 10 picks, no matter how they even play that year, whatever. They don't have to even play in college, so they're top 10 pick. Then people kind of like try to get in with them early. So he signed some of these deals with like agents and different like brands that clearly are like trying to get in with him early. But what I want to know is these collectives, they're spending crazy money. We have our own collective. Hopefully we can get somebody on from the collective. If anybody knows anybody, I think we're going to reach out and try to get someone on from the NIL collective just to hear more experiences. But they keep those numbers really quiet. Ever since that Miami guy that got $8 million or whatever some 800,000 maybe it was. And then the guy on the other team said, I'm going to sit unless you match what you just gave that transfer guy. They keep this stuff quiet. We don't hear a lot about what these guys do. I mean, we listen to a lot of podcasts. We listen to a lot. We're on message boards. You don't really hear the beat writers or anybody else saying actual numbers. NFL, NBA, whatever, all this place. The numbers come out. Not so far in the NIL deal. So sorry, that's a big rant about NILs, Nick Smith for an Auburn basketball podcast, but it's just crazy interesting to me that like we're bidding out there, and I'm super interested to hear it. It's not all what's the crystals. It's not all crystal deals for Zep Jasper and Devin Cambridge. These are like guys getting salaries now out there and getting bid for. So
it's wild. I'm kind of like for me at least, I'm like glad I'm kind of blissfully like unaware.
It feels like there's a lot of people out there just trying to ignore it because it's tough to talk about and it's not fun, and we want to keep our fun for as long as possible. And you're one of those that's funny. Like, I am just going to have fun as long as I can have fun for, and that might be good for you. And I just can't do it. I got to something about me.
Only two other things to save us from this conversation. Jordan Walsh on their team kind of looks like a dinosaur. Interesting dude.
Are you talking about the guy with alopecia? Are you saying alopecia people look like dinosaurs?
No,
Matt, come on, man. We are trying to be nice to people here.
I just thought that I don't know. It was a very noteworthy face. Anyway, he's
got alopecia.
I know that, but whatever.
I'm sorry. I probably drank one too many rums here. I'm being
Anyway,
I hope people like this.
I wanted to shout him out. He had 10 rebounds. He was kind of their biggest threat inside, but again, 2 of 10 for him. And perhaps the best stat of the day for our defense, you mentioned the scoring droughts and the field goal droughts. Best run of Arkansas's whole game was 5-0. They never had more than a 5-0 run. And I think that really speaks to kind of the consistency of not only our defense, but on offense, not giving them turnovers to get on the fast break and get. It never felt like a time. I think one time today you wanted us to call timeout, which that's a pretty good thing for the overall flow of the game.
I usually am pro timeouts when things are kind of going, especially when we're up by a decent amount and we kind of let them just drain away. But I'm looking at a stat here I really enjoy. The game was tied for 14 seconds. We never trailed. Lead time was 39 minutes and 23 seconds. That's a fun one. Let's keep doing that. Let's just win at all times to keep the score above the entire time.
With this team especially, right? Like, we don't need to be coming back from down. How frustrating was that Georgia game? Like, we just could never get closer than 5 or 6. It's so
hey, that's a great set. They only went on 5-0 runs because we're not going to come back on people, but maybe we keep people from coming back on us. Let's start these games strong. I don't know if you have any other stats or anybody else you want to talk about, but if you don't, let's talk some around the SEC. If you got that, I would love to see some other games. I know Alabama and Kentucky played today. Sadly, I mean, it's one of those meteor. You hope the meteor hits the arena situations. You know, I will never cheer, no matter what the consequences are, for Alabama. So I was cheering for Kentucky to win that. And then on top of that, it's because Kentucky's already kind of falling apart and Alabama's going to get all this hype. Even though Kentucky's terrible, they're going to get hype from being Kentucky this time. Alabama's already number 7 in the nation. They walloped Kentucky 78-52. Kentucky, you just hope, man. We play them later in the season. I just would kill to play them right now. You just hope they don't figure it out before we get to play them. I want to break that curse in Lexington. I don't think this team necessarily has it, even with the bad Kentucky team. But please don't figure it out. Please eat yourselves alive. I mean, with the NIL transfer, again, it's even more like easy to a team to like eat themselves apart. Please, by the time we get there, please be falling apart. Please have players sitting ready for the NBA, all this kind of stuff.
I don't know if it'll get to that point, but it's
they're getting calls for Calipari,
yeah.
And national podcasts are talking about it now. Like, it used to be, if you called it Calipari, something like that, you were getting roasted for calling him out. Look at all this amazing things he's done. Look at these recruiting classes, blah, blah. They're getting to a point that not only are there like decent percentage of their fan base calling him out and saying maybe it's time to move on from his lifetime contract, which is hilarious that they do these lifetime contracts, because no matter who, what's the old saying, either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain. You get these lifetime contracts, at some point you're going to fall off unless you're smart enough to step away. And very rarely are people smart enough to walk away. So rarely. And so he's getting blown out. National podcasts are talking about it. Like, these fans that want him gone, these fans that want to move on, maybe they're not crazy. Maybe it is it's getting rusty there, you know?
Well, and Texas came open. They fired Chris Beard with his personal issues, and there's a lot. Like Cal has been floated out for that. Like, would he want to get out of that Kentucky? Which I'm very up in the air. I don't know if I want that because Cal. I mean,
you're right. No matter who comes into Kentucky, you kind of don't want to bring the new blood in because it feels like no matter who comes in, it could be a big deal. But we've seen other teams, not just in this sport, but even in this sport, an Indiana was never supposed to be down like this for so long. The Louisville is the laughing stock of college basketball right now. Syracuse should have never ever lost its swagger and all that. So Duke and North Carolina, they're saying like no matter what, those teams are always making Kansas the same, but like we'll see. It seems to be going okay at UNC and Duke right now, but we'll see, man. You bring in the wrong guy.
What about who I would love to go to Texas? Nate Oates. That would be awesome. If
I think this little carousel could be good with Texas, man. Even if it's not Calipari, it could be Musselman. If it's
people have also
Musselman,
mentioned Bruce though, like a national.
I think we've absolutely locked him in now.
I think so too.
I think there'll still be people calling it, but I think people don't understand. And maybe it'll be funny where the Homer podcast or whatever. I'm sure Alabama or Arkansas, whoever, especially Arkansas fans, they probably think like, oh, why would you ever want to leave Arkansas? Kind of stuff like that. But yeah, I think we know with Bruce's age, with his son on the thing, and Steven came out hard on another podcast saying he wants the Auburn job one day, and that's the hardest I've ever heard him say that. And he's talking about how he's had other offers, and we kind of think that hopefully he'll go take a smaller job somewhere and come back one day to us. But like that timing's weird. You never know if he'll come back or whatever. And it sounds like he kind of wants to stay on till and that can be really risky too. We'll take it for now, I think, the way our history is, but like. It's weird. And if you ever, we had Stephen Pearl on the podcast last year, it's still relevant. We like to ask these assistant coaches and different coaches things that are kind of in the terms evergreen, when you can like things that are going to be at all times relevant. And so go back and listen to Stephen Pearl. He's the best interview out there. If you can get a Stephen Pearl interview, listen to him. But I think the coaching carousel from Kentucky, Texas, all that would only ever benefit us.
I agree. I think so too. Looking through 3 undefeated teams left, already only down to 3. Texas A&M has shown some nice spunk. They beat LSU by double digits at home today. They're 2-0. Tennessee beat South Carolina by 43. Wow. South Carolina is not very good, but Tennessee and Alabama look clearly better, and maybe along with Missouri. Missouri's looked really good too. Those are probably your top 3. And I believe
bottom. Is South Carolina the worst team in the league?
The only teams that are winless in SEC play are South Carolina and Ole Miss. And Ole Miss, we play
them twice, right?
We do, and we play them next.
Great. Hey, let's build on this momentum here after this Arkansas game in Oxford. We'll have to look at our standings for the SEC podcast host competition. I have to do some formulas to do that. I do have it. It's probably not great to do on air, so we'll put it up on our Twitter and our Instagram. We'll talk about it next game. This was 50-50 on who was going to get this Arkansas. Like the hosts from the other podcast.
I'm glad
you had a loss. I had a win, but I have a loss at Ole Miss. Now that I know that Ole Miss is the worst and that we've got this momentum, I'm hoping I'm wrong. It really feels like there's a chance for a letdown. I mean, we saw what happened at Georgia. Yep. We got up for this because it was a revenge game. Hey, we could easily come back down again and not bring the energy correctly in Ole Miss. And if we could lose to Georgia, we can definitely lose to Ole Miss. I picked you because I picked a win here and think it could be a letdown. So watch out for that. It could be a letdown. I'm hoping beyond hope that this is what brings the team together. Hey, look what we did when we won the revenge. We were pulled together at the same time at home against Arkansas. Let's do it again at Ole Miss. But all it really takes is Ole Miss to hit a couple threes early, a couple big shots early for us to turn the ball over early. We get down on ourselves again, or the vice versa. We get out there, we get hot, we hit a couple threes and prove that we can hit them at Ole Miss's arena. Game goes the other way.
And Ole Miss, their first conference game, they were down to the wire at home against Tennessee. So the worst, we've seen it any given night. I mean, good luck. So it is an opportunity though. Now that we've gotten this Arkansas game, 2-1, I think is what we probably expected. I think reasonably in the first 3. Now you have a stretch that is here. I
think we didn't expect it to be the way the games turned out. But yeah.
No.
And I've been saying it on the Instagrams and the Twitters and on the podcast. Every away game at this point win is an upset. So
Huge.
I don't care how we beat Ole Miss. I don't care if it's the same score as when we were in Cancun and it's 42-41 or whatever, 32-31.
I
I can't
forgot about
remember.
that game.
Was it 21-20,
It was 40.
11-10?
No, no,
No, it wasn't that low. It was something around there though. If it's that, as long as it's a win, I don't care. Every win away is an upset, and we should celebrate that.
Yeah, and we need to get one. The only one we have is Washington. So, big opportunity. Just to read it off for people, the next few games. We talked about how the first half of our conference schedule is a lot more manageable than the last half. So now with this win, can you build on it? Can we get a little streak together? You're at Ole Miss on Tuesday night. You get Mississippi State at home next Saturday, at LSU, at South Carolina, who's bad, but on the road. A&M at home, West Virginia, Georgia at home. And that's what leads up to going to Knoxville. So huge, like you said, can we find a way to beat? Let's see, we have at Ole Miss, we have at LSU, at South Carolina. Can you find a way to win 2 of those? Can you find a way to win 2 out of 3 of those road games? And then can you beat Mississippi State at home? Can you beat A&M at home? Can you then? I mean, I know this team has been bad. With this team is, and we're going to overreact to this
on offense. Our defense has been fine
on offense, but it hasn't been pretty. The reason we're gushing about this Arkansas game is just because it's just been a rough, year to watch in a lot of ways. But these games are certainly losable, like you said, but they're certainly winnable. Like there's, up until that trip to Knoxville, I don't think there's anything that's like.
But I love the expectations of it. It's an upset if we win. You're right, it is winnable. But like this is where we need to set our expectations. I think my life's all about expectations. If I don't, if you don't expect too much, you get surprised how happy. And some people argue the opposite. You got to shoot for the stars. But I'm all about if we can win this one, it's an upset and it's great and it's a lot of fun and we'll have a good. That's I think for fans, that's the move. Yep. Set your expectations that way so you can enjoy every win.
So if we were looking at big surprises, I think the only things, it's only been 3 games for everybody. So, and it actually only 2 games for some teams. So, but the surprise would have to be how good Alabama and Tennessee have looked on one hand. And then the other two, the other surprise would be that Arkansas and Kentucky are 1-2. Right.
It just shows like what we know coming into the preseason, how crazy things can get. Kentucky, if you'd argue with people that they were a top 5 team, they would have lost it. Of course they were top 5. They got the returning national player of the year. You're insane. They're not top 5. And it's just another one of those, like Calipari used to get these guys to be able to pull them together eventually. And it's been a decent amount of times in a row. He's probably not done that more than he's done that. Bring these highly recruited guys in and get them pulling in the right direction. And at this point, it's like I think this is why the fan base is starting to turn a bit. It's starting to be like, all right, this is enough examples now that it's more likely that he gets these recruits in and it doesn't work out than the other way around. And it's great that he's recruiting, but yeah, I'm sure it's like this, just like us and things. Kentucky recruits itself. The next guy that gets in there will be recruiting too. So it's all about bringing these guys together. So yeah, Kentucky's not doing great. Love that Arkansas is falling apart a bit. It's because half because they got these great players that aren't playing. Half we'll see if Musselman can keep these guys together. We'll see too come NCAA. Same with Tennessee. Both their seasons, basically, Arkansas and Tennessee's come down to like what's going to happen in NCAA, which sucks. I hate that like is such a big thing in the sport, but Tennessee doesn't matter what they do this year really if they don't do anything in NCAA. And Arkansas, they need to have a good year too, but they can still hold their breath and do well in the NCAA, but they have to if they don't meet expectations in the SEC.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll point out, and we can kind of wrap it up probably from my end, is Tennessee and Alabama, I think, are the 2 we have to be rooting against. We already would do that anyway, but they're at the top right now. So Tennessee plays Vanderbilt, I believe, on Tuesday, and then big one. You talk about a big game. Arkansas has to leave Auburn or Neville Arena, apologies, and they host Alabama on Wednesday night. Like that's a huge game for Arkansas now because they're facing one.
Perfect.
Yes.
Go beat Bama.
Yes.
Make us look good for beating you.
Yes.
And then get Alabama a loss. The only bad thing is the other way around. It's going to hurt.
Well, and the thing, we don't play Arkansas again. unless we play them in the SEC tournament. So,
and again, this is on Wednesday, and we play on Tuesday. Lose
right.
to Ole Miss, and things just don't matter as much, So
No.
let's go out there and beat
Well,
Ole Miss.
I'm still going to root against Alabama and
Well,
Tennessee.
of course, yeah. Who's
But
Tennessee playing? Sorry, I don't know if you
they
mentioned.
host
Sorry.
Vanderbilt.
Well, things have happened before. I know Ben likes Vanderbilt's team. I don't think they've been super great. We're excited to see that the Nashville Auburn club's got Bruce Pearl on the lineups. If you're in Nashville, go there. I was just in Nashville this last couple of weeks hanging out with Matt. Great to have everybody come out and watch with us for that Florida game. That was a ton of fun. We love Nashville. I know 2 out of our hosts are in New York, another in Nashville, another in Auburn. And I think Ryan, man, go tear it up. He's honky tonking in Nashville right now. So Nashville's the place to meet if you're an Auburn fan. A little update for Tennessee. I think I'm on hate watch for Julian Phillips. I want him to fail. We got outbid by Tennessee. That's just the future, but it still feels gross. He's got 10 points per game, 25 minutes a game, shooting 20% from 3, 5 point rebounds. So he's fine. He's doing fine over there. Luckily he's not, a big time star so far, but it would be super nice to have a 10-point average game from our 3 position right now. So he's doing all right. He's no JD Davidson right now.
No, yeah, true. He's playing well, and I don't know. I think big picture from this game, obviously, it's going to feel massive if we can go steal one at Ole Miss. I think you're right to position it that way. That would be great. But just, I think this is a huge resume booster for the tournament down the road. Hopefully, we don't need it to get in, but if there's a chance that we do, so to get. This is one of 3 games we talked about. Tennessee and Alabama at home are going to be the other 2 big ones. Can we get? We're 1 for 1. I hope tonight was just a big release of some of the negativity and some of the stuff, and just hey, we can still play winning basketball, even if it looks a little different, even if it's a little uglier, even if we still aren't the best shooters from the staff and the players. I hope we see some benefits of that moving forward. We're not going to win every game or anything, but can we look a little more self-assured, right? It just feels like maybe this could be a big momentum shift, but like you've said, it's just tough every night. Every game's tough.
I know this is a big one for us. I've had a lot of fun doing the podcast tonight. That's part of the fun we do it. We love just getting together. I mean, we did this before this ever existed, just calling each other, and we have a lot of fun. It just reassures another fun one, and hopefully we get some more of them this year. And if not, I had fun tonight, and that's part of it. I'm hoping everybody had fun watching it themselves at their houses at Neville Arena. That's why we do it, to have some of these fun nights. And I don't want to hear about, this or that from just enjoy tonight the way it is. Have fun, talk a little smack at the office if you need to this week. Cause we'll see if they got any more, but tonight was fun. We got a revenge. We got a W on the game that me and Ryan circled as the game we wanted to win the most. So here we are. It's easy to come. It'll be easy to forget this in a week or 2 and want the next game to be the game you really want to win. Hey, I picked this one early. I'm enjoying the mess out of it.
There's a reason that cliche is the biggest one is the next one, because that's exactly how it works. But this week is a great reminder in college basketball. I think I said on the last episode, we're always too negative after the losses because we see the things that are bad, and we're usually too positive just as fans. It's easy to get carried away with oh man, well if Flanagan can score 18 and 8, then we could be who knows. But like you said, for tonight, it honestly, once you guarantee me this win, it's almost like I would take this, because we needed to show we could beat a team that is really good. We hadn't beaten a good team yet. And I think that hopefully will lead to some better days. I mean, that's all we can hope for at this point, is a little more consistent. And maybe we can build on the defense and how solid and how great of a plan we had in place on defense. Because like we've talked about, 70, under 70, good numbers, good stats, nothing easy. And I think we did that tonight.
If you like alcohol and you like rum and you like your rum aged on a ship going 80 times between Bermuda and New York on a ship being aged, this is the stuff. Gosling Spirited Seas, ocean aged Bermuda rum. Check it out. It fueled this podcast. It's fueled my enjoyment of this game. Check it out. War Eagle, Matt.
War Eagle. Way to go, Goslings.